I really don't understand what the devs over there at Exodus are doing. I mean, they're doing a good job with the pre-release lore, it seems. I haven't read them, and I was going to if I ended up buying the game, but the books apparently have amazing lore. I went after a couple YouTube videos and saw some of the lore explained. Seems very interesting, and best of all, very unique. So I was a little bit surprised when I saw the newest trailer coming out, and I just can't get over the way these characters look. I was kind of assuming that they'd look a little bit better as time went on, but it kind of seems like it's trending the opposite way. You know, a big part of the sci-fi genre that I like is the aesthetic. Kind of a big reason why the decline of Halo, a lot of it has to do with the aesthetics and the music. And the music seems well enough put away for Exodus, but I just can't get over the faces. And I don't know if it's just the engine, because I have a lot of issues with the faces on Expedition 33 and a lot of these UE5 games. And I'm not exactly sure if they're using that. I haven't really looked into it as far as for Exodus. But it definitely says a lot when your main competitor, which is in this case the Expanse, have extremely, I mean, probably twice as good at looking characters. And I don't want to hear anything about how realism in the face looks, you know, or it is essential to some kind of video game immersion. I mean, one of the coolest things I liked about Mass Effect is, you know, I didn't even change the character creator. I was always male Shep or female Shep. And I would just choose them because they looked really good. And I kind of sucked using their character creator. But I kind of appreciated the, you know, shaved head Flash Gordon style male Shep. I was hoping for something similar for this game. And all signs kind of point to no, but we haven't seen the female version of June yet. So maybe that one will be better looking, but something about the animation, you know, this isn't just the character creator issue. These are CGI trailers that they're showing us. These are supposed to be putting the best foot forward for the development studio to get people hyped. And I just don't think this is it. They obviously can't change the engine this far into development, but they definitely can change the facial designs, kind of clean them up a little bit. Even Tom, who I thought in the extended story trailer that I saw initially, that was the first thing I saw. You know, he actually looked really good, I thought. And they kind of looked like they butchered his face. I don't know if it's like, again, I don't know if that's just an engine problem, but a game like this, you're gonna be spending a lot of time with these characters, you know, dozens of hours of your time. These characters need to look good. You can't really customize the actual face of the people around you. And it seems like they brought a writer out of retirement and gave him full reign. I'm not really sure why somebody in the studio isn't raising concerns about this. And it is actually really funny because every time I see a new trailer out, one of the first comments up there, is talking about how you need to fix the faces, fix the hair, fix the facial animations. And I have seen a little bit of bugginess in the facial animations, but those are easy fixes as far as I'm concerned. But facial aesthetics is definitely more of a choice. And I don't even know what June is really supposed to look like as far as racially. And of course, this far forward in the future, I don't think it matters that much. But they just have to pick a lane as far as if he's going to be handsome or not, which, you know, he should be. I think for the game to be successful, you kind of have to lean into what used to work and what you know works. This is coming from the same people who supposedly made the first Mass Effect. And really, I don't think I'm the only person thinking this. You know, like I said, I look at the comments of these announcement videos, and I should not be seeing anything about the aesthetic in a CG trailer. Aesthetics and music should be on point before you release it. And this kind of lack of attention to detail, or just intentional bad decision as far as facial design and character design, it just shows that there isn't really much hope for this game as far as little tiny details that add up to make major parts of the game. And it's not really a suspension of disbelief that's a problem. You know, there's a term I heard floating around last year, and it's verisimilitude. And it's basically having beliefs of the characters acting appropriately in the actual setting and time and beliefs that they would have in that very future, or the past is the most common misuse of it. But in Exodus's case, this is kind of a verisimilitude problem with the future. I had a couple really high hopes, and the biggest one was definitely the writing, of course. In these types of games, that's what has to be the top priority. But I was very interested in seeing the kind of imagination, or the imagined type of person that would actually be able to survive and thrive in the kind of universe being set up by the books. And if you're not very familiar, I'll give a basic rundown for what I remember. But in this universe, it's basically all humans. And with time dilation, the first people who left the galaxy, they had been evolving and crafting themselves genetically into barely recognizable human forms. And they're known as the Celestials. And so there's all these different forms of them. They're obviously very different with their new genetics. They view humans as basically subhuman or slaves at best, which by itself is very interesting. I'm a very pro-human, human supremacist playthrough kind of guy. I kind of wish we had that more in the Mass Effect trilogy. But as far as this game, what type of people do we think would be going against that kind of force? The kind of people that we would send up to lead thousands or millions of people would be almost unrecognizable from the type of people we see today. Because today, whether or not you want to admit it, merit is very rarely the thing that counts with people. Whether it's a business or going on these crazy expeditions in space, which even today are a little bit astroturfed. We send people to go on the ISS, and of course you have to be very competent to be up there, but you're not sending the literal best in the world to just sit up there for 30 days and do something. But these types of people, these travelers, they have to be experts in almost every single thing that they do. Because if you don't, all these resources you're sending, they have to succeed. And especially in this game, where your planet's literally dying, that type of person being sent from this planet, June, especially with his mixed genetics that he has, he is part celestial, and he's part human. That's probably the one thing I'm looking forward to the most, is seeing this person act differently than what I'm used to seeing, which is that's why writing sucks today, in RPGs especially. I'm just very worried that instead of some kind of badass, extremely methodical, clever, and genius level IQ expedition leader, we're gonna get some Californian LARPing as a space explorer, which, that was basically the issue with Mass Effect Andromeda. These people need to basically not resemble anybody from here. They need to be ultra competent, they need to be ultra meritocratic, and they need to be willing to make decisions that are just horrific to them personally. But, these especially, they have to make terrible sacrifices to their own family just to save their own world. And I was very excited to see this, and to see the kind of consequences of this type of storytelling, especially with time dilation. I don't know if I personally, and I view myself as fairly competent, I don't know if I was at my physical and mental peak, if I'd be willing to leave my entire family and my children to go and just to have a chance to bring back some technology. That's a special type of person in my eyes. And I'm not saying that the facial animations are going to destroy the storytelling, but I am worried that if they're not putting their best foot forward now, is that a sign of problems that we're not seeing? If I was making a universe like this, and I was the kind of creative director, I would be very anal and meticulous about the type of writing and the type of aesthetic, the type of music. They have basically one shot at this to really make their name. If they make a completed quality game at launch with very interesting, at least story mechanics, they could make the gameplay fairly bland, although it doesn't look bland based on the trailers, but it could be fairly bland with just a great story and a cool aesthetic, and they'll be greenlit basically for good. People are starving for an amazing sci-fi game. I was honestly much more looking forward to Exodus than I was The Expanse, but honestly, this is like a Sonic the Hedgehog movie moment for me, where if they were to just listen to the fans and tweak the character design just a little bit, to make them less dysgenic looking, I would buy this on day one. And I basically never buy any games on day one. But either way, please let me know if I'm just being a little schizo, but I just don't like spending my money unless the majority, 95% of the game looks like it's worth it. I'm not really a consumer, I'm more of a customer. I really want my dollar to kind of get what it's worth, especially today. But right now, I'm definitely leaning more towards The Expanse. As far as marketing goes, I really do think The Expanse is kicking the hell out of Exodus. Just watching a couple trailers from The Expanse, they're bringing on NASA astronauts to give a little bona fide to their spacewalking mechanics. And everything from the combat to the storytelling seems to be very, very grounded. And I actually don't know if there's anything else like that, but I really do like the idea of having like a tactical gunplay combat system in a massive kind of space opera. Although this space opera seems to be more of a political space opera. I'm pretty sure both of these, to me, are fairly unique. I know The Expanse has been around a while, has a bunch of books, and I did watch a lot of the first season of the show, and I liked it overall. And maybe I will be wrong, but I just feel like The Expanse is just, they will be a lot better on day one, I'm pretty sure. And it seems like they have a lot more complete right now. So I'm pretty sure they'll release quite earlier. I haven't double checked when both of them are releasing, but I do remember that Exodus releases in early 2027. So we will see. I'm not saying Exodus is going to be a bust or that it's woke because of the way the faces look. I just think that they have an opportunity. It's not as severe as the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, but if they do actually listen and kind of give a little nod that they're listening to fans, I think that would go a long way. And I do actually think that listening to the fans is something they really should be doing, because they are touting the fact that they are the original creators of Mass Effect 1, that they come from that kind of lineage and bloodline. Throwing the fans a bone would do nothing but good, in my opinion. I am honestly rooting for both of these games to do well. I think there's been a massive hole left by Mass Effect 3, and please believe me when I do say I am rooting for these games. I'm definitely more of an old school type gamer. My tastes are much more in line with classic Western RPGs, in this case, especially with sci-fi. And I actually think that this is a genre where there's a lot of room for innovation and for fan grace. I don't think anyone's expecting a couple perfect games right now. I think people, me especially, we just want something to kind of continue that Mass Effect legacy. We want to explore planets, sleep with hot babes, and kill some ugly-ass aliens. So if anybody actually knows of any games like that besides Mass Effect, that would be great, especially if they're kind of underground or even indie games. I'll probably have to try them out. And if you made it this far, I do appreciate it. If you've seen any of my other videos or listened to them, I had a little bit of an issue with my mic, specifically the mic quality. So I think this one will be a lot better. If you have any suggestions, I will listen and I'll respond to you in the comments section. Thanks guys, cheers.